Welcome to WebBlizzard's Cert Lab. This is SC-900 Practice Exam 2, Controls and Boundaries, updated for the SC-900 skills measured as of July 28, 2026. You will work through 45 applied scenarios across security, compliance, identity, Microsoft Defender, and Microsoft Purview. Trace the scope, service boundary, identity type, and control plane that decides each answer. You will hear each complete question and every answer option. For matching questions, you will hear both sides of the match. After the cue, lock in your answer. There is a true 3-second silence. Then the correct answer appears in place. After the reveal, connect the answer to the tested principle and a reusable exam clue. Pause whenever you want more time. Question 1. A financial services firm operates a hybrid identity infrastructure with on-premises Active Directory synchronized to Microsoft Entra ID. Security analysts have observed reconnaissance activity and potential credential compromise attempts targeting domain controllers and service accounts. They need a solution that ingests signals from both on-premises directory services and cloud identity providers to detect lateral movement, privilege escalation, and compromised credentials with behavioral analytics, then correlates findings into the Unified Defender portal for investigation. Which service fulfills this requirement for hybrid identity threat detection? Answer A, Microsoft Defender for Identity. Answer B, Microsoft Entra ID Protection. Answer C, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. Answer D, Microsoft Sentinel UEBA. Lock in your answer. The decisive answer is A, Microsoft Defender for Identity. Hybrid on-prem AD sensors plus Entra ID plus lateral movement / compromised credentials / reconnaissance points directly to Defender for Identity. Cloud-only risk events point to Entra ID protection. Microsoft Defender for Identity deploys lightweight sensors on on-premises domain controllers and integrates signals from Entra ID to deliver behavioral analytics for the full identity attack lifecycle across hybrid environments. Alerts and context flow into the Microsoft Defender portal for unified investigation and response. Question 2. After a merger, a company wants one cloud directory to create employee identities, provide single sign-on to Microsoft 365 and Azure applications, and enforce access policies across the combined workforce. Which foundational Microsoft service should become the central identity provider? Answer A, Microsoft Entra Domain Services. Answer B, Microsoft Entra ID. Answer C, Microsoft Entra External ID. Answer D, Microsoft Entra Workload ID. Lock in your answer. A central workforce directory for cloud authentication, SSO, and access policy across Microsoft services points to Microsoft Entra ID. Microsoft Entra ID is the core cloud-based identity and access management service automatically provisioned with every Microsoft 365 or Azure tenant. B satisfies the requirement, Microsoft Entra ID. It provides authentication, SSO, conditional access, and serves as the directory foundation for the entire Entra product family. Question 3. A pharmaceutical company must retain all documents in a specific SharePoint site collection for a minimum of 7 years due to regulatory requirements, while certain high-value project folders require manual disposition review before deletion, and the retention settings must travel with content if it is moved to another library or OneDrive within the tenant. Broad mailbox-level deletion after 5 years is also needed for Exchange. Which Purview approach best satisfies the combination of uniform site-level retention, item-level granularity with traveling labels, and disposition review? Answer A. Create retention policies scoped to the SharePoint site and Exchange recipients. Answer B. Create retention labels published to the relevant locations. Answer C. Use retention policies for broad scopes and retention labels for item-level control. Answer D. Use sensitivity labels with retention actions configured in DLP policies. Lock in your answer. Retention policies provide efficient, broad, location-scoped retention, for example, entire site or mailbox. The supported response is C. Use retention policies for broad scopes and retention labels for item-level control. Broad location plus item level plus traveling plus disposition review equals retention policies, broad, combined with retention labels/label policies, item level. Sensitivity labels address protection, not lifecycle. Retention labels, published or auto-applied via label policies, enable item-level granularity, traveling retention within the tenant, event-based periods, and disposition review. The principles of retention resolve conflicts when both are applied. Question 4. During a Zero Trust Architecture workshop, an executive asks how the organization will verify that a remote employee attempting to access a sensitive financial application is who they claim to be before application permissions are granted. The employee supplies a password plus a time-based one-time code from an authenticator app. Which security concept describes this proof of identity step as distinct from deciding what the verified user may access? Answer A. Authorization via role-based access control, RBAC. Answer B. Conditional access policy evaluation. Answer C. Privileged identity management, PIM activation. Answer D. Authentication using multiple factors. Lock in your answer. Authentication proves the identity of a user, device, application, or workload. Authentication proves who or what an identity is. Authorization determines what that verified identity is allowed to do. Conditional access can impose sign-in requirements, but is not a synonym for authentication. The answer is D. Authentication using multiple factors. Identity proof is distinct from authorization. After first-factor authentication, conditional access can evaluate signals and may require another authentication factor before access is granted. Question 5. A security team needs continuous vulnerability discovery across endpoints and servers, risk-based prioritization that considers exploitability and business context, and remediation workflows in the Microsoft Defender portal alongside its existing Defender XDR operations. Which capability best meets the requirement? Answer A. Microsoft Defender Vulnerability Management. Answer B. Microsoft Defender for Cloud Security Recommendations and Posture Management. Answer C. Microsoft Defender for Endpoint Attack Surface Reduction Rules. Answer D. Microsoft Sentinel Threat Intelligence and Analytics Rules. Lock in your answer. Option B is tempting, but Microsoft Defender for Cloud provides cloud security posture recommendations and vulnerability assessment for supported cloud and Arc-enabled machines, including integration with Defender Vulnerability Management. The requirement asks for the dedicated vulnerability management service across the endpoint and server estate, with its native prioritization and remediation workflow. Continuous asset discovery, risk-based vulnerability prioritization, and tracked remediation point to Defender Vulnerability Management. The supported choice is A. Microsoft Defender Vulnerability Management. Microsoft Defender Vulnerability Management continuously discovers vulnerabilities and misconfigurations, uses threat intelligence and business context to prioritize risk, and provides remediation workflows and tracking for supported endpoints, servers, and network devices. Question 6. A financial services company is deploying AI agents that access Microsoft 365 data on behalf of employees. Each agent needs its own governed identity, least privilege access, and an auditable activity trail, rather than being treated as a human user. Which Microsoft Entra capability is purpose-built for this requirement? Answer A. Microsoft Entra Workload ID. Answer B. Microsoft Entra Agent ID. Answer C. Microsoft Entra External ID. Answer D. Microsoft Entra ID Governance. Lock in your answer. Microsoft Entra Agent ID provides identity and access capabilities for AI agents, including agent identities, permissions, governance, observability, lifecycle, and protection. That leads to B. Microsoft Entra Agent ID, governed non-human identity specifically for an AI agent, points to Microsoft Entra Agent ID. General applications and services use workload ID. Question 7. A manufacturing company wants to proactively detect and investigate potential IP theft or data leaks by employees showing behavioral indicators, such as unusual access to sensitive files after receiving a negative performance review or announcing departure. The solution must correlate Microsoft 365 signals with HR data, generate risk scores, create cases, and support escalation to legal hold without performing full legal discovery searches or simple activity logging. Which Purview capability provides this policy-driven insider risk scoring and case management? Answer A, Microsoft Purview eDiscovery. Answer B, Microsoft Purview Audit Search. Answer C, Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management. Answer D, Microsoft Purview Data Loss Prevention, DLP. Lock in your answer. C satisfies the requirement. Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management. Behavioral risk scoring plus HR integration plus case management for departing/risky users. Not legal search or logging. Uniquely identifies insider risk management within Purview. Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management uses policy templates, e.g. data leaks by risky users, data theft by departing users, HR connectors, Microsoft 365 signals, and analytics to score risk, generate alerts, triage cases, and integrate with eDiscovery for deeper investigation, distinct from pure logging, legal search, or prevention enforcement. Question 8. Which two statements accurately describe authorization, as distinct from authentication, in a Microsoft Entra and Zero Trust environment? Answer A. It determines what actions or resources an authenticated identity is permitted to access based on roles, policies, or attributes. Answer B. It can be implemented via Microsoft Entra RBAC roles that grant specific permissions at tenant or resource scope after identity verification. Answer C. It is the process of verifying a user's identity using factors such as passwords, MFA, or passkeys before granting access. Answer D. Authorization is implemented by conditional access instead of roles and permissions. Answer E. It relies on network location or device registration as the primary trust signal for access decisions. Lock in your answer. Why not C? This describes authentication, proving identity, not authorization, what the verified identity is allowed to do. Authorization, what you can do after identity is verified. Authentication, proving who you are. RBAC and policies implement authorization. A and B work together here. A. It determines what actions or resources an authenticated identity is permitted to access based on roles, policies, or attributes. B. It can be implemented via Microsoft Entra RBAC roles that grant specific permissions at tenant or resource scope after identity verification. Authorization determines what actions or resources an authenticated identity is permitted to access. Microsoft Entra role assignments implement authorization by granting permissions at defined scopes. Question 9. A global enterprise SOC team is triaging an XDR incident involving a suspicious domain and needs to correlate IOCs with actor profiles, known vulnerability contexts, reputation data, infrastructure relationships, and analyst insights in its investigation workflow. Which Microsoft capability provides this threat intelligence, research, and enrichment experience? Answer A, Microsoft Sentinel Threat Intelligence. Answer B, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint Threat Analytics Widgets. Answer C, Microsoft Purview Audit Solutions. Answer D, Microsoft Threat Intelligence. Lock in your answer. Intel Profiles plus Intelligence Explorer and Threat Intelligence Enrichment point to Microsoft Threat Intelligence. Sentinel Threat Intelligence focuses on ingesting and operationalizing indicators in SIEM workflows. Microsoft Threat Intelligence is the current converged name for the Defender TI experience in Microsoft Defender XDR. Use Microsoft Threat Intelligence. It provides Intelligence Explorer and Intel Profiles for researching actors, vulnerabilities, IOCs, and related analyses. Question 10. A company keeps employee accounts in on-premises Active Directory domain services, but is adopting Microsoft 365. It wants the same users represented in Microsoft Entra ID and needs a supported choice of cloud authentication methods. Which identity approach addresses this requirement? Answer A. Microsoft Entra Hybrid Identity with Entra Connect. Answer B. Microsoft Entra ID as a standalone cloud directory. Answer C. Microsoft Entra Domain Services. Answer D. Microsoft Entra External ID for B2B collaboration. Lock in your answer. Hybrid Identity Provisions, or synchronizes on-premises directory identities into Microsoft Entra ID, so the same organizational identities can be used across on-premises and cloud resources. On-premises ADDS identities represented in Entra ID for access across both environments is a hybrid identity scenario. A satisfies the requirement, Microsoft Entra Hybrid Identity with Entra Connect. Organizations can select a supported authentication method appropriate to their environment. Question 11. A legal team must preserve custodian content, collect it into a case, analyze it in review sets, identify near-duplicate documents, and prepare relevant material for export. Which Microsoft Purview solution provides this advanced review workflow? Answer A. Microsoft Purview Audit. Answer B. Microsoft Purview eDiscovery. Answer C. Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management. Answer D. Microsoft Purview Records Management. Lock in your answer. A complete eDiscovery workflow, case preservation, review set, analysis, and export, points to Microsoft Purview eDiscovery. Audit, search, and records retention solve adjacent problems. Microsoft Purview eDiscovery provides case-based preservation, search, review, and export for legal and regulatory investigations. Choose B. Microsoft Purview eDiscovery. With the required premium eDiscovery licensing, review sets add advanced analytics, such as near-duplicate detection, to help reduce the material that reviewers must examine. Question 12. Match each sign-in scenario with the most appropriate identity provider or authentication method. Item 1. Employees sign in to workforce applications with organizational accounts. Item 2. A partner uses its existing SAML-based corporate identity provider for B2B collaboration. Item 3. A guest without another supported account receives a temporary code by email. Item 4. A consumer signs into a customer application with a Gmail identity. Description 1. Email one-time passcode. Description 2. Microsoft Entra ID. Description 3. Google Federation. Description 4. SAML/WS Fed Federation. Lock in your answer. Here is the completed map. Employees sign into workforce applications with organizational accounts. That maps to Microsoft Entra ID. A partner uses its existing SAML-based corporate identity provider for B2B collaboration. That maps to SAML/WS Fed Federation. A guest without another supported account receives a temporary code by email. That maps to email one-time passcode. A consumer signs into a customer application with a Gmail identity. That maps to Google Federation. Match the account's home identity or fallback method. Workforce Entra ID. Partner SAML/WS Fed Federation. Guest email OTP or Google Federation. Microsoft Entra ID authenticates workforce organizational accounts. SAML/WS Fed Federation lets a partner use its home corporate identity provider for B2B collaboration. Question 13. A SOC receives an incident that correlates a phishing alert from Defender for Office 365 with a device compromise alert from Defender for Endpoint. Analysts need one place to review the incident timeline, investigate related entities, and track response actions. Which Microsoft experience should they use? Answer A. Advanced hunting queries in Microsoft Defender XDR. Answer B. Microsoft Sentinel investigation and entity pages. Answer C. The incidents experience in the Microsoft Defender portal. Answer D. Microsoft Defender for Cloud recommendations. Lock in your answer. The decisive answer is C. The incidents experience in the Microsoft Defender portal. Correlated XDR incident triage across Defender products points to the incidents experience in the Microsoft Defender portal. Advanced hunting or posture tools are adjacent, but not the primary incident hub. The incidents experience in the Microsoft Defender portal is the unified surface for triaging correlated XDR incidents from Defender for Office 365, Defender for Endpoint, and other signals. Question 14. A company wants phishing-resistant, passwordless sign-in for employees. Managed Windows users should authenticate with a device-bound credential, while users on shared workstations need a portable hardware credential. Which pair of Microsoft Entra authentication methods best fits these requirements? Answer A. SMS codes for managed devices and voice calls for shared workstations. Answer B. Microsoft Authenticator push notifications for both scenarios. Answer C. Temporary access pass as the permanent daily sign-in method for both scenarios. Answer D. Windows Hello for Business, device-bound, FIDO2 security keys, portable hardware. Lock in your answer. Windows Hello for Business provides phishing-resistant, passwordless authentication tied to a managed Windows device. The supported response is D. Windows Hello for Business, device-bound, FIDO2 security keys, portable hardware. Device-bound Windows credential plus portable hardware credential maps to Windows Hello for Business plus a FIDO2 security key. FIDO2 security keys provide a portable, phishing-resistant credential suitable for users who move among shared or specialized devices. Question 15. A legal team needs long-term audit retention, intelligent insights for investigations, and higher bandwidth access to the Office 365 Management Activity API. Which audit capability best matches? Answer A. Microsoft Purview Audit, Premium. Answer B. Microsoft Purview Audit, Standard. Answer C. Office 365 Management Activity API. Answer D. Microsoft Purview Audit, Standard, with an external SIEM archive. Lock in your answer. Consider option B. Audit Standard provides audit search and baseline retention, but not the full Audit Premium package of long-term retention policies, premium investigation capabilities, and higher bandwidth API access described. Advanced Audit Retention, Investigative Insights, and Programmatic Access point to Microsoft Purview audit capabilities. eDiscovery and retention policies solve different compliance tasks. A satisfies the requirement, Microsoft Purview Audit Premium. Microsoft Purview Audit Premium is the native tier designed for long-running investigations that need long-term audit retention policies, premium investigation capabilities, and higher bandwidth programmatic access. Audit Standard, the Management Activity API alone, and external archiving do not provide that combined native package. Question 16. An organization must keep its existing on-premises domain and its current OU and group policy hierarchy authoritative while it moves selected workloads to Azure. Legacy systems depend on Kerberos, LDAP, and domain join and cannot be reconfigured to use a separate managed domain. Which directory service should the organization retain? Answer A. Microsoft Entra ID Cloud Directory. Answer B. Active Directory Domain Services, ADDS. Answer C. Microsoft Entra Domain Services Managed Domain. Answer D. Microsoft Entra External ID. Lock in your answer. Active Directory Domain Services, ADDS, is correct, because the scenario requires retaining the existing on-premises domain, OU GPO hierarchy, and Kerberos LDAP services. Legacy on-prem apps requiring Kerberos plus group policy plus LDAP hierarchy and full administrative control equals self-managed Windows Server ADDS. Managed Azure version equals Entra Domain Services. Pure Cloud Directory equals Entra ID. Select B, Active Directory Domain Services, ADDS. Microsoft Entra Domain Services supplies a managed subset of ADDS capabilities in Azure, including custom OUs, group policy, LDAP, and Kerberos/NTLM. But it is a separate managed domain and does not preserve the existing on-premises domain as authoritative without migration or reconfiguration. Question 17. A retailer's internet-facing Azure services are being disrupted by large UDP floods and SYN floods targeting public IP addresses. The company needs Azure native Layer 3 and Layer 4 monitoring and automatic mitigation at the Azure edge without changing application code. Which service should it use? Answer A, Azure Firewall. Answer B, Azure Web Application Firewall, WAF. Answer C, Azure DDoS Protection. Answer D, Network Security Groups, NSGs. Lock in your answer. Large network layer floods against Azure public IP resources point to DDoS protection. HTTP exploit protection points to WAF. Azure DDoS protection monitors and mitigates volumetric and protocol attacks against protected Azure public IP resources at layers 3 and 4. The answer is C, Azure DDoS protection. It works at the Azure edge and does not require changes to application code. Question 18. A healthcare organization wants stronger identity verification in two situations: users accessing Microsoft 365 from untrusted locations, and administrators activating eligible privileged roles. Which two controls can directly require MFA in these respective situations? Choose two. Answer A, a Microsoft Entra ID protection report that lists risky users and sign-ins. Answer B, a Microsoft Entra Access Review that periodically recertifies privileged role assignments. Answer C, a conditional access policy that requires MFA for sign-ins from untrusted locations. Answer D, an authentication methods policy that enables Microsoft Authenticator for administrators. Answer E, a PIM role setting that requires MFA whenever an eligible administrator activates the role. Lock in your answer. Why not A? ID protection reports help detect and investigate identity risk, but a report by itself does not enforce MFA during sign-in. Cloud app sign-in conditions use conditional access. Eligible privileged role activation uses PIM activation controls. The two supported controls are C and E. C, a conditional access policy that requires MFA for sign-ins from untrusted locations. E, a PIM role setting that requires MFA whenever an eligible administrator activates the role. Conditional access can require MFA when users access targeted cloud applications under specified conditions. PIM activation settings can require MFA when an eligible user activates a privileged role. Both controls use MFA as stronger identity verification in their respective workflows. Question 19. An auditor for a U.S. government contractor requires the most recent FedRAMP authorization package, SOC 2 Type 2 reports, and penetration test summaries, specifically for Azure and Microsoft 365 services. The compliance team needs a single authenticated Microsoft repository that provides these third-party attestations, supports filtering by cloud service, allows subscription to document series updates via My Library notifications, and requires NDA acceptance after Entra sign-in. Which Microsoft resource is the authoritative source? Answer A, Microsoft Purview portal. Answer B, Microsoft Compliance Manager. Answer C, Microsoft Trust Center. Answer D, Microsoft Service Trust Portal. Lock in your answer. That leads to D, Microsoft Service Trust Portal. Official FedRAMP authorizations and compliance reports point to the Service Trust Portal. Purview and Compliance Manager address different governance needs. The Microsoft Service Trust Portal provides the most recent FedRAMP authorizations, SOC reports, and compliance documentation required by government contractors. Question 20. A university with an existing on-premises Active Directory forest wants students and faculty to authenticate to Microsoft 365 and Azure resources using their university credentials. The institution requires that all authentication decisions remain under on-premises control, with no password hashes synchronized to the cloud, and supports SAML token issuance for cloud applications. Which hybrid identity configuration satisfies these constraints? Answer A, Active Directory Federation Services, ADFS. Answer B, password hash synchronization to Microsoft Entra ID. Answer C, pass-through authentication through on-premises agents. Answer D, Microsoft Entra Connect synchronization used as the authentication method. Lock in your answer. Federation establishes trust between Microsoft Entra ID and an external identity provider such as ADFS. The decisive answer is A, Active Directory Federation Services, ADFS. An on-premises IDP issuing trusted SAML tokens with no password hash synchronization describes federation. The external IDP authenticates the user and issues a token that Microsoft Entra ID trusts, allowing the organization to retain the requested federated sign-in model without synchronizing password hashes. Question 21. A financial services company operates several peered VNets hosting internal applications and external-facing services. Security architects need a centrally managed, stateful network firewall service deployed in a dedicated subnet that inspects both east-west, internal, and north-south, external traffic, applies real-time threat intelligence to block malicious IPs and domains, and supports layer 3 to 7 filtering without requiring per-subnet rule configuration. Which Azure service directly addresses this centralized firewall requirement? Answer A, Network Security Groups, NSGs. Answer B, Azure Firewall. Answer C, Azure Web Application Firewall, WAF. Answer D, Azure DDoS Protection. Lock in your answer. Azure Firewall is the recommended centralized, stateful network firewall for protecting resources across peered VNets with threat intelligence and logging. The answer is B, Azure Firewall. Centralized firewall for peered VNets with threat intelligence points to Azure Firewall. NSGs are distributed and lack the same capabilities. Question 22. After a password spray incident, a hybrid organization wants to block commonly attacked passwords and company-specific terms whenever users change or reset passwords in Microsoft Entra ID or on-premises ADDS. Which capability should it deploy? Answer A, Self-Service Password Reset, SSPR. Answer B, Microsoft Entra Conditional Access. Answer C, Microsoft Entra Password Protection. Answer D, Microsoft Entra ID Protection Risk Policies. Lock in your answer. The distractor is A. SSPR provides the password reset workflow and can invoke password protection during a reset. But SSPR does not define or manage the global and custom banned password lists themselves. Global and custom banned password lists, enforced in cloud and on-premises ADDS, point to Microsoft Entra Password Protection. The answer is C, Microsoft Entra Password Protection. Microsoft Entra Password Protection checks new and changed passwords against Microsoft's global banned password list and an optional organization-specific custom list. Agents can extend the same protection to on-premises ADDS, complementing Smart Lockout and other controls. You have completed 22 questions. Take a breath, reset your attention, and continue when you are ready. In the remaining scenarios, trace who acts, where the control applies, and which service boundary satisfies the exact requirement. Question 23. A customer evaluating Microsoft Cloud Services asks which statement reflects Microsoft's privacy commitments for commercial customer data. Which response is accurate? Answer A. Microsoft may use customer data to build advertising profiles as long as direct identifiers are removed. Answer B. Microsoft becomes controller for customer data stored in its cloud and determines the purposes of processing. Answer C. Customers transfer primary responsibility for privacy governance and GDPR compliance to Microsoft when they adopt cloud services. Answer D. Customers control their data and can understand where it is located and processed. Lock in your answer. For commercial customers, Microsoft's privacy principles include customer control, transparency about data location and use, security, and protection from third-party access. Customer control of data location/processing and no advertising use points to the correct privacy statement. Other options invert the commitments. D satisfies the requirement. Customers control their data and can understand where it is located and processed. Microsoft processes customer data for service delivery and documented business operations, not for user profiling, advertising, or market research. Customers retain their controller responsibilities. Question 24. A SaaS provider is migrating a line of business application to Azure App Service, PaaS. The security team is documenting responsibilities for protecting customer data classification and encryption keys, managing developer endpoint security on laptops, controlling user identities and RBAC assignments, and securing the custom application code. Under the shared responsibility model, which set of responsibilities remains fully with the customer regardless of the PaaS deployment model? Answer A. Data classification, encryption decisions, endpoint protection, and identity/access management. Answer B. Physical data center security and hypervisor maintenance. Answer C. Operating system patching and runtime environment updates. Answer D. Network infrastructure cabling and physical host hardware. Lock in your answer. Always customer-retained items, data, identities, endpoints, access management, even in PaaS, equals core of the shared responsibility model. Infrastructure items shift to Microsoft. The shared responsibility model states that customers always retain responsibility for their data, classification, protection, encryption decisions, identities and users, client devices, endpoints, and access management, RBAC, MFA, conditional access, irrespective of whether the workload is IaaS, PaaS, or SaaS. Use A. Data classification, encryption decisions, endpoint protection, and identity access management. Microsoft assumes the underlying infrastructure responsibilities that vary by service model. Question 25. An e-commerce company protects two web applications, one behind Azure Application Gateway and another behind Azure Front Door. They require centralized Layer 7 protection against common exploits such as SQL injection and cross-site scripting using managed OWASP-based rule sets and bot management, without modifying application code. Which two Azure capabilities or attachment points satisfy the requirement for this web application firewall protection? Choose two. Answer A. Azure Web Application Firewall policies attached to Application Gateway. Answer B. Azure Firewall with web category filtering. Answer C. Azure Web Application Firewall on Azure Front Door. Answer D. Network security groups applied at the subnet level. Answer E. Azure DDoS protection. Lock in your answer. Select A and C. A. Azure Web Application Firewall policies attached to Application Gateway. C. Azure Web Application Firewall on Azure Front Door. L7 Web Exploits, SQLi/XSS, plus managed OWASP rules, plus attachment to application gateway and front door, equals WAF on those two services. Broader firewall or L3 quarter controls point elsewhere. Azure Web Application Firewall provides centralized Layer 7 protection against web exploits and bots. WAF policies can be associated with Azure Application Gateway or Azure Front Door, and can use managed OWASP rules without application code changes. Question 26. A healthcare provider requires that access to its patient records application in Azure is granted only when the sign-in originates from a managed corporate device. The user is a member of the clinical staff group, and no high sign-in risk is detected. The control must evaluate these signals after initial authentication and either block or require additional verification. Which Entra capability implements this if-then policy engine? Answer A, Microsoft Entra ID protection. Answer B, Microsoft Entra conditional access. Answer C, Microsoft Entra roles and RBAC. Answer D, Azure network security groups. Lock in your answer. Do not choose A. Entra ID protection supplies risk signals, user and sign-in risk, that can feed into policies, but does not itself create or enforce the multi-signal if-then access decisions across device, group, location, and application. That leads to B, Microsoft Entra conditional access. Microsoft Entra Conditional Access is the zero trust policy engine that aggregates signals, user, group, agent, IP location, device state, application, real-time risk from ID protection, and Defender for cloud apps, and enforces decisions such as block, grant, or grant with requirements, MFA, compliant device, approved client, etc. Policies are evaluated after first-factor authentication. Question 27. The data governance team needs one interface where they can publish sensitivity labels, define DLP policies across Exchange and SharePoint, open eDiscovery cases, search the unified audit log, and launch compliance manager assessments. Which Microsoft portal serves as the single hub for these customer-managed information protection, data lifecycle, and compliance workflow capabilities? Answer A, Microsoft Defender Portal. Answer B, Microsoft Entra Admin Center. Answer C, Microsoft Purview Portal. Answer D, Service Trust Portal. Lock in your answer. The best fit is C, Microsoft Purview Portal. Single pane for sensitivity labels, plus DLP, plus eDiscovery, plus audit, plus compliance manager assessments. Identifies the Purview portal, distinct from security/XDR or Microsoft Attestation Store. The Microsoft Purview portal is the unified customer-facing hub for information protection, data lifecycle management, DLP, insider risk, eDiscovery, audit, records management, and compliance manager workflows. Question 28. A multinational company wants regional application tiers to communicate privately, segment workloads into isolated address spaces, connect regions through peering, resolve services through private endpoints, and apply routes and controls at subnet boundaries. Which Azure service provides this private network foundation? Answer A, Network Security Groups, NSGs. Answer B, Azure Firewall. Answer C, Application Security Groups, ASGs. Answer D, Azure Virtual Network. Lock in your answer. VNets and subnets define the network structure. NSGs, routes, and firewalls enforce traffic policy on top of it. Azure Virtual Network is the foundation for private networking in Azure. The best fit is D, Azure Virtual Network. VNets and subnets organize address space into segments, while peering and private service integration provide connectivity. Azure routes traffic between subnets by default, so NSGs, route tables, and firewalls are then used to enforce the required restrictions. Question 29. Match each access management requirement with the appropriate Microsoft capability. Item 1. Grant permissions to manage users, groups, and other Microsoft Entra directory objects. Item 2. Grant permissions to manage an Azure virtual machine or storage account. Item 3. Limit a directory role assignment to a defined subset of users or groups. Item 4. Make a privileged role eligible for approved, time-limited activation. Description 1. Microsoft Entra Privileged Identity Management. Description 2. Azure Role-Based Access Control. Description 3. Microsoft Entra Role. Description 4. Administrative Unit. Lock in your answer. Connect each concept to its function. Grant permissions to manage users, groups, and other Microsoft Entra directory objects. That maps to Microsoft Entra Role. Grant permissions to manage an Azure virtual machine or storage account. That maps to Azure Role-Based Access Control. Limit a directory role assignment to a defined subset of users or groups. That maps to Administrative Unit. Make a privileged role eligible for approved, time-limited activation. That maps to Microsoft Entra Privileged Identity Management. Directory administration uses Entra roles. Azure Resources use Azure RBAC. Subset scope uses administrative units. Temporary privilege uses PIM. Microsoft Entra roles govern directory administration, while Azure RBAC governs Azure Resources. Question 30. After a third-party audit, the GRC team must demonstrate control implementation across Microsoft 365 services, distinguish Microsoft Managed from Customer-Managed controls, track completion of improvement actions, and produce a risk-weighted compliance score against GDPR and ISO 27001. Which Purview tool provides the assessments, workflow, shared responsibility tracking, and scoring? Answer A. Microsoft Purview Compliance Manager. Answer B. Service Trust Portal. Answer C. Microsoft Purview Audit Search. Answer D. Microsoft Defender for Cloud Recommendations. Lock in your answer. Microsoft Purview Compliance Manager provides pre-built and custom assessments, distinguishes Microsoft Managed and Customer Managed actions, tracks improvement work and evidence, and calculates a risk-based compliance score to help prioritize progress. The decisive answer is A. Microsoft Purview Compliance Manager. Risk assessments plus shared responsibility controls, Microsoft versus customer, plus improvement action tracking, plus risk-weighted compliance score, identifies Compliance Manager, distinct from STP attestations or security posture tools. Question 31. A manufacturing company has deployed a multi-tier application in Azure. The front-end web servers reside in one subnet and the back-end database servers in a separate subnet within the same virtual network. Security policy requires that only TCP port 1433 traffic originating from the web subnet reaches the database subnet. All other inbound traffic from any source, including the internet, is denied at the network layer, and enforcement must occur at the subnet level without a centralized policy engine or threat intelligence feeds. Which Azure capability directly implements this requirement? Answer A. Azure Firewall. Answer B. Network Security Groups, NSGs. Answer C. Azure Web Application Firewall, WAF. Answer D. Azure Private Link. Lock in your answer. A network security group is a stateful, distributed Layer 3/4 control that can be associated with a subnet. Use an NSG for stateful subnet level filtering by source, destination, protocol, and port. Explicit custom rule priorities are needed when overriding default VNet traffic behavior. The best fit is B, Network Security Groups, NSGs. Use a higher priority allow rule from the web subnet to the database subnet on TCP 1433, followed by a custom deny rule that takes precedence over the default allow VNet inbound rule so other inbound sources are blocked. Question 32. A global enterprise wants business managers to request bundled access for contractors, require approval, apply expiration, automate joiner-mover-leaver tasks from HR events, and periodically review whether access is still needed. Which Microsoft Entra capability provides this identity and access lifecycle governance? Answer A, Microsoft Entra Conditional Access. Answer B, Microsoft Entra Privileged Identity Management, PIM. Answer C, Microsoft Entra ID Governance. Answer D, Microsoft Entra ID Protection. Lock in your answer. Microsoft Entra ID Governance combines identity lifecycle automation with access lifecycle controls, such as entitlement management, access packages, approvals, expiration, and access reviews. The best fit is C, Microsoft Entra ID Governance. Access packages, approval and expiration, lifecycle workflows, and recurring access reviews point to Microsoft Entra ID Governance. Question 33. An organization completes recommended improvement actions, assigns responsibility between Microsoft and the customer, and tracks progress against a default data protection baseline. Which score reflects this risk-weighted progress? Answer A, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Security Recommendations and Posture Score. Answer B, Service Trust Portal Attestation Reports and Bridge Letters. Answer C, Microsoft Purview Content Explorer and Activity Explorer. Answer D, Compliance Score in Microsoft Purview Compliance Manager. Lock in your answer. Why not A? Defender for Cloud provides Security Posture Management, CSPM, recommendations, and a security score focused on configuration risks and workload protection. It is not the compliance-specific risk-weighted score. Risk-weighted aggregate of improvement actions from Compliance Manager assessments, Microsoft 365 baseline, visibility into Microsoft/customer shared controls equals compliance score, distinct from security posture, attestation store, or data discovery tools. Choose D, compliance score in Microsoft Purview Compliance Manager. The compliance score in Microsoft Purview Compliance Manager is calculated from completed improvement actions, risk-weighted points, across assessments. It starts from the Microsoft 365 Data Protection Baseline, distinguishes Microsoft versus customer versus shared responsibility, and helps prioritize work to raise the overall compliance posture. Question 34. A healthcare provider must enable secure RDP and SSH administrative access to virtual machines across multiple VNets without exposing any public IP addresses on the VMs themselves, while also supporting session recording and replay for compliance auditing in a regulated environment. Which two Azure Bastion capabilities directly satisfy these requirements? Choose two. Answer A, provides just-in-time JIT VM access and vulnerability assessment via Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Answer B, deploys as a PaaS jump host in a dedicated subnet, eliminating the need for public IP addresses on VMs. Answer C, acts as a centralized, stateful L3, L7 firewall with threat intelligence. Answer D, uses Azure VPN Gateway as the managed browser-based RDP and SSH proxy. Answer E, supports Azure Bastion session recording and replay for auditing. Lock in your answer. The two supported controls are B and E. B, deploys as a PaaS jump host in a dedicated subnet, eliminating the need for public IP addresses on VMs. E, supports Azure Bastion session recording and replay for auditing. Bastion provides managed RDP/SSH access without public IPs on target VMs. Premium session recording adds audit playback, subject to supported network topology and storage configuration. Azure Bastion provides managed RDP and SSH connectivity without public IP addresses on target VMs. With the premium SKU and required storage configuration, Bastion Session Recording can record and replay sessions for audit and troubleshooting. Reaching VMs across multiple VNets depends on supported peering or IP-based connectivity and the applicable Bastion SKU. Question 35. Department managers must periodically confirm whether employees and guests still need membership in sensitive Microsoft 365 groups and access to assigned applications. Denied access should be removable when review results are applied. Which Microsoft Entra capability supports this recurring attestation process? Answer A, Microsoft Entra Access Reviews. Answer B, Microsoft Entra Privileged Identity Management, PIM. Answer C, Microsoft Entra Conditional Access. Answer D, Microsoft Entra ID Protection. Lock in your answer. Recurring reviewer attestation of existing group, application, or role access identifies Microsoft Entra Access Reviews. Microsoft Entra Access Reviews support recurring review of group memberships, application assignments, and roles. A satisfies the requirement, Microsoft Entra Access Reviews. Designated reviewers attest whether access should continue, and results can be applied to remove access that is no longer required. Question 36. A multinational retailer needs to automatically discover and classify documents containing customer PII and payment card data stored in SharePoint Online, OneDrive, and Exchange. They require built-in sensitive information type pattern matching, exact data match for custom identifiers, and trainable classifiers that can be trained on sample documents to recognize proprietary contract templates. Which Microsoft Purview capability provides the core classification engine that feeds into downstream auto-labeling and protection policies? Answer A, sensitivity labels and label policies. Answer B, Microsoft Purview data classification. Answer C, data loss prevention, DLP, policies. Answer D, retention labels and records management. Lock in your answer. The supported response is B, Microsoft Purview data classification. Automatic discovery plus pattern matching plus trainable classifiers plus exact data match plus feeds auto-labeling equals Purview data classification. Protection, monitoring, lifecycle are separate layers. Microsoft Purview data classification uses mechanisms such as sensitive information types, exact data match, and trainable classifiers to discover and categorize sensitive content. Protection and governance capabilities, such as labels and DLP, can then use those classification results. Question 37. A SaaS provider building a multi-tenant application must centrally store and manage API keys, database connection strings, TLS SSL certificates, and customer-specific encryption keys. The solution must support software-protected or HSM-protected keys, Azure RBAC or access policies for fine-grained authorization, soft delete with purge protection for recovery, and integration with Azure Monitor for access auditing. Which Azure service satisfies all these centralized, secret, and key management requirements? Answer A, Azure Managed Identities. Answer B, Azure Disk Encryption. Answer C, Azure Key Vault. Answer D, Microsoft Defender for Key Vault. Lock in your answer. Azure Key Vault centrally stores secrets, keys, and certificates. Central storage and management of keys and secrets points to Azure Key Vault. Managed identities and disk encryption address different aspects of security. The supported choice is C, Azure Key Vault. It supports Azure RBAC or access policies, HSM protected keys, soft delete and purge protection, and Azure Monitor integration for logging and operational visibility. Question 38. After a penetration test revealed excessive standing privileges, an organization decides to eliminate permanent global administrator and privileged role administrator assignments. They require just-in-time activation with mandatory MFA, business justification, designated approvers, time-bound access, notifications, and periodic access reviews for all Entra ID and Azure Resource Privileged roles. Which Entra ID governance capability delivers this complete privileged access governance model? Answer A, Microsoft Entra ID protection. Answer B, Microsoft Entra conditional access. Answer C, Microsoft Entra access reviews, standalone. Answer D, Microsoft Entra privileged identity management, PIM. Lock in your answer. Microsoft Entra Privileged Identity Management, PIM, enables organizations to move privileged roles from permanent to eligible assignments, enforce just-in-time activation with MFA, justification, and approval, set time bounds, send notifications, generate audit history, and conduct access reviews, directly addressing the risks of standing privileged access across Entra ID, Azure, and Microsoft 365 services. The decisive answer is D, Microsoft Entra Privileged Identity Management, PIM. Just-in-time plus approval plus MFA plus justification plus time-bound plus notifications plus access reviews for privileged roles, Entra plus Azure, equals Entra PIM. Risk detection equals ID protection. Policy enforcement equals conditional access. Permanent assignments equals RBAC. Question 39. A multi-cloud organization needs one service to assess cloud configurations, prioritize security recommendations, analyze attack paths, and add threat protection for workloads such as servers and containers across Azure and connected environments. Which Microsoft service provides this combination? Answer A, Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Answer B, Microsoft Sentinel. Answer C, Microsoft Defender XDR. Answer D, Microsoft Purview. Lock in your answer. Reject B, because Sentinel is a cloud-native SIEM plus SOAR for log ingestion, analytics, and automated response. It consumes alerts from Defender for Cloud, but does not provide CSPM posture management or workload protection. Cloud posture assessment plus workload threat protection across connected environments points to Microsoft Defender for Cloud. The answer is A, Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Microsoft Defender for Cloud combines cloud security posture management with optional cloud workload protection plans. It assesses configurations, generates recommendations and attack path context, and protects supported workload types across Azure and connected cloud environments. Question 40. A financial services firm wants to investigate identity-related risk, such as password spray, leaked credentials, and suspicious sign-ins, then use those risk levels in access policies. Which two capabilities are associated with Microsoft Entra ID protection? Choose two. Answer A, risk detections, risky sign-ins, and risky users reports with investigation workflows. Answer B, just-in-time privileged role activation with approval workflows. Answer C, access reviews for Entra ID and Azure resource roles. Answer D, risk-based conditional access policies that respond to sign-in and user risk. Answer E, creation of Microsoft Purview DLP policies that block sensitive data sharing. Lock in your answer. Risk detections and risky user/sign-in investigation, combined with risk-based conditional access, identify Entra ID protection. Microsoft Entra ID protection detects identity-related risk and surfaces risk detections, risky sign-ins, and risky users for investigation. The correct pair is A and D. A, risk detections, risky sign-ins, and risky users reports with investigation workflows. D, risk-based conditional access policies that respond to sign-in and user risk. Risk levels can be consumed by conditional access policies to require stronger authentication, block access, or support remediation. Some detections occur in real time, and others are calculated offline. Question 41. A security architect is onboarding a new multi-cloud deployment spanning Azure, AWS, and GCP. The team requires continuous agentless discovery of resources, risk-prioritized recommendations, attack path visualization for critical assets, and secure score tracking to drive posture improvements without deploying agents on every workload. Which Microsoft Defender for Cloud capability directly addresses this requirement? Answer A, Microsoft Defender for Servers with EDR and JIT access. Answer B, Cloud Security Posture Management, CSPM, with agentless discovery and risk scoring. Answer C, Microsoft Sentinel with KQL rules and fusion correlation. Answer D, Microsoft Purview Compliance Manager assessments. Lock in your answer. Agentless multi-cloud posture discovery and risk scoring points to CSPM. Runtime EDR or SIEM correlation point to other Defender/Sentinel capabilities. Cloud Security Posture Management, CSPM, provides agentless discovery, risk scoring, and recommendations across multi-cloud environments. The decisive answer is B, Cloud Security Posture Management, CSPM, with agentless discovery and risk scoring. Question 42. Match each Microsoft Defender for Cloud posture concept with its role in improving security posture. Item 1. Defines the benchmark or framework whose controls are assessed. Item 2. Groups related recommendations that address a common security objective. Item 3. Identifies a specific unhealthy resource condition and provides remediation guidance. Item 4. Summarizes posture numerically based on the status of assessed security controls. Description 1. Security recommendation. Description 2. Secure score. Description 3. Security standard. Description 4. Security control. Lock in your answer. Here is the completed map. Defines the benchmark or framework whose controls are assessed. That maps to security standard. Groups related recommendations that address a common security objective. That maps to security control. Identifies a specific unhealthy resource condition and provides remediation guidance. That maps to security recommendation. Summarizes posture numerically based on the status of assessed security controls. That maps to secure score. Standard defines the benchmark. Control groups related findings. Recommendation gives the resource level fix. Secure score measures posture. Defender for Cloud evaluates resources against security standards. Standards contain security controls, controls group related recommendations, and recommendations identify resource level actions. Secure score summarizes the resulting posture and helps track improvement. Question 43. A company already uses posture recommendations, but now needs runtime threat protection and vulnerability management capabilities for production servers and containers. Which Defender for Cloud capability extends protection from configuration posture into supported workloads? Answer A. Foundational CSPM agentless configuration assessments and secure score. Answer B. Microsoft Sentinel playbooks for automated incident response. Answer C. Cloud workload protection plans for resources such as servers and containers. Answer D. Microsoft Entra conditional access policies for identity-based controls. Lock in your answer. Defender for Cloud workload protection plans add workload-specific threat detection, vulnerability management integration, and other runtime protections for supported resource types. The answer is C. Cloud workload protection plans for resources such as servers and containers. Runtime and workload-specific protection for servers or containers points to Defender for Cloud workload protection plans, not CSPM alone. This is distinct from posture management, which assesses configurations and recommends improvements. Question 44. A SOC team requires a platform that ingests and normalizes logs from hundreds of sources at scale, uses analytics to correlate events into incidents, and then orchestrates automated containment and ticketing through playbooks. Which Azure service natively delivers both the SIEM detection layer and the SOAR automation layer in one solution? Answer A. Microsoft Defender XDR Unified Signal Correlation. Answer B. Microsoft Defender for cloud recommendations and automations. Answer C, Azure Monitor data collection rules and action groups. Answer D, Microsoft Sentinel log ingestion and analytics with automation rules and playbooks. Lock in your answer. Microsoft Sentinel is Microsoft's cloud-native SIEM and SOAR platform. Use Sentinel when the requirement combines broad security data ingestion, SIEM analytics and incident investigation, plus SOAR automation through rules and playbooks. D satisfies the requirement. Microsoft Sentinel log ingestion and analytics with automation rules and playbooks. It ingests and normalizes telemetry from diverse sources, applies analytics to detect and investigate threats, and uses automation rules and playbooks to orchestrate and automate incident response. Question 45. A SOC wants Microsoft Sentinel to detect suspicious activity across its connected data sources, correlate related alerts into incidents, enrich investigations with threat intelligence, and trigger automated response workflows. Which capability set should it use? Answer A, analytics, threat intelligence, incident correlation, and playbook automation. Answer B, Microsoft Defender for Cloud CSPM, Secure Score. Answer C, Microsoft Defender XDR, Custom Detection Rules. Answer D, Azure Firewall IDPS and Threat Intelligence Filtering. Lock in your answer. Use A, analytics, threat intelligence, incident correlation, and playbook automation. Detection rules plus behavior detections plus threat intel plus automation playbooks points to Sentinel. Posture scoring, or XDR detections, point to adjacent Defender capabilities. Microsoft Sentinel analytics rules, behavior-based detections, threat intelligence, and automation playbooks enable detection of suspicious activity and incident response. You have completed all 45 questions in SC-900 Practice Exam 2. You practiced tracing security layers, identity controls, Microsoft Defender capabilities, Microsoft Purview solutions, compliance boundaries, and zero trust decisions across applied scenarios. Review the distinctions you missed, then return to the exam objectives with those control boundaries in mind. Thanks for practicing with WebLizard Labs and WebLizard Cert Lab. Continue with the final SC-900 Readiness Challenge when you are ready. Your final score matters less than whether you can explain why the supported answer fits the exact requirement.